Rain hammered against the windshield as Archie Lewis pulled his battered pickup truck to the curb. Under the bus stop shelter, a woman stood soaked through, shoulders trembling not from cold but from tears. Archie hesitated. He was on his way to the most important job interview of his life. But the stern resolve mixed with brokenness in her face made him roll down the window. Need a ride? He had no idea this woman would decide his future in just a few hours. Archie Lewis was 34 years old, with a lean frame and gentle eyes that had seen more hardship than most. He worked odd jobs, whatever he could find, fixing electrical wiring one day, driving delivery trucks the next, cleaning out warehouses when nothing else came through. His hands were calloused from years of manual labor, but they were honest hands, capable hands, the kind that could repair almost anything except the broken pieces of his own life. He lived alone with his daughter in a rental house on the edge of Seattle, where the paint peeled from the walls and the floorboards creaked with every step. The furniture was second-hand, rescued from yard sales and roadside giveaways. His pickup truck was older than his marriage had been, held together by duct tape and stubborn hope. But Archie never complained. He had something more valuable than money. He had Beatrix. Beatrix Lewis was 7 years old, with her father's gentle spirit and a brightness all her own. She carried a sketchbook everywhere, filled with drawings of flowers and houses and families holding hands. She adored her father with the kind of unwavering faith that only a child can have. Daddy can fix anything, she would tell her classmates with absolute certainty. She had been only 2 when her mother walked out, leaving nothing but a note that said she deserved better than this life. Archie had never let Beatrix see that note. Instead, he became both parents, working himself to exhaustion so his daughter would never feel the absence. This morning, Beatrix had straightened his collar before he left, her small fingers careful and precise. "They're going to see how good you are, Daddy. I know it." Her confidence had warmed him more than coffee ever could. Constance Industries was looking for an electrical maintenance supervisor. It was a real job. Steady pay, health insurance, the kind of stability that could change everything for them. Archie had practiced his answers for days, memorizing every detail of the job description. This interview was his shot at giving Beatrix the future she deserved. The woman under the bus shelter was named Audrey Constance, though Archie did not know that yet. She was 30 years old, with long blonde hair darkened by rain and expensive makeup streaking down her cheeks. She wore a tailored coat that probably cost more than Archie's monthly rent, now plastered against her body by the downpour. But in this moment, none of that mattered. She looked lost in a way that had nothing to do with directions. Audrey had just fled from a family meeting that had turned into a battlefield. Her brother Lucas wanted to cancel a charity initiative she had spent months developing. "Too expensive," he said. "Not profitable enough." When she argued that their company had a responsibility beyond profit margins, he reminded her coldly that sentiment did not pay shareholders. The words had cut deeper than he intended, or perhaps exactly as deep as he meant them to. She had walked out into the rain without an umbrella, needing to feel something other than the numbness spreading through her chest. What Archie could not see from his truck was that this crying woman was the chief operating officer of Constance Industries, the very company where he was headed. The woman whose signature could approve or deny his entire future. But none of that was visible in her tears. Lucas Constance was 35, his sister's older brother by 5 years, and a lifetime of different priorities. He ran Constance Industries with ruthless efficiency, believing that business required hard choices and harder hearts. He did not trust people with messy backgrounds. He did not believe in second chances for those who had already proven unreliable. His relationship with Audrey had grown increasingly strained as she pushed for what he called idealistic nonsense, and she called basic human decency. The rain fell harder, turning the street into rivers. Archie sat in his idling truck, watching the clock on his dashboard tick closer to his appointment time. Every minute he delayed was a minute closer to being late, but his hands would not turn the wheel to drive away. He rolled down the window further. "Ma'am, I don't mean to intrude, but you're going to catch your death out here." Audrey turned toward the voice, ready to brush off another stranger. But something in Archie's face stopped her automatic dismissal. There was no judgment there, No calculation. Just genuine concern from someone who looked like he had troubles of his own. "I'm fine," she said, though her voice shook. "Thank you." Archie nodded slowly. Then he reached into the passenger seat and pulled out a package of tissues. They belonged to Beatrix, decorated with little cartoon flowers. These might help more than the rain. Audrey stared at the offered tissues, and something in her cracked further. She took them with trembling hands. "That's very kind. Why don't you get in?" Archie said gently. "Just until the rain lets up." "I've got the heat running." She hesitated. Every self-preservation instinct told her not to get into a stranger's vehicle. But she was so tired of being alone with her thoughts, and this man's eyes held nothing but honest kindness. She climbed into the passenger seat, water pooling beneath her on the worn upholstery. Archie cranked up the heat and pulled his work jacket from behind the seat. "Here. It's not much, but it's dry." He draped it over her shoulders without waiting for permission, the gesture automatic and unassuming. Audrey pulled the jacket tight, breathing in the smell of soap and honest work. "I'm getting your truck all wet." "Truck's seen worse," Archie said with a small smile. "Beatrix, my daughter, once spilled an entire chocolate milkshake back there. This is nothing." Something about the casual mention of his daughter made Audrey feel safer. She wiped at her face with the flowered tissues, smearing mascara into abstract patterns. "Beatrix. That's a beautiful name." "She's a beautiful kid," Archie said simply, and the love in his voice was so pure it made Audrey's throat tight. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, rain drumming on the roof. Then Audrey noticed the strap of her expensive bag had torn, leaving her struggling to keep it closed. Without a word, Archie reached into his glove compartment and produced a small roll of electrical tape. "May I?" he asked, already tearing off a strip. Audrey watched as he carefully reinforced the broken strap, his fingers deft and sure. He worked like someone who had spent his whole life fixing things that broke, making do with what was available. When he finished, he inspected his work with professional satisfaction. "Should hold until you can get it properly repaired." "You didn't have to do that. Didn't have to do a lot of things," Archie said with a shrug. "But seemed like you needed someone to." Audrey felt tears threatening again, this time not from frustration but from the unexpected grace of a stranger's kindness. She reached up to wipe her eyes and winced. There was a small scrape on her wrist from where she had stumbled in her rush to leave the building. Archie noticed immediately. "You're hurt." "It's nothing." But Archie was already pulling out a first aid kit from under his seat. The kit was small and well used, clearly maintained for emergencies with a young daughter. He cleaned the scrape with gentle efficiency, applying antibacterial ointment and a bandage with the practiced care of a father who had dealt with countless playground injuries. "There," he said softly. "Good as new." Audrey looked at this man who had stopped his day to help a crying stranger, who had given her his jacket and his daughter's tissues and his time, asking nothing in return. "Where were you headed?" "Before you stopped?" Archie glanced at the clock and felt his stomach drop. He had been here for almost 20 minutes. Job interview. "But it's okay." "Okay?" "You're going to be late. Some things are more important," Archie said, and he meant it. He had been raised to help when help was needed. Consequences be damned. Audrey felt something shift in her chest. "Where's the interview?" "Constance Industries." "Downtown." Her breath caught, but she managed to keep her voice steady. "That's not far. I can direct you. It's the least I can do." As Archie pulled back into traffic, neither of them noticed when Audrey's employee badge slipped from her coat pocket and wedged between the seat cushions. Archie drove with quiet concentration, following her directions through the rain-slicked streets. A flash of lightning illuminated the skyline ahead, and for just a moment, the Constance Industries building stood out like a monument against the storm. They pulled up to the main entrance, and Audrey turned to him with an expression he could not quite read. "Thank you. For everything. You're a good man." "Archie Lewis." He blinked in surprise. "I never told you my name." She pointed to the faded name embroidered on his work shirt and managed a small smile. "Good luck with your interview. I have a feeling they'd be lucky to have you." Before he could respond, she was gone, disappearing through the glass doors into the marble lobby beyond. Archie sat for a moment, catching his breath, then looked at the clock. He had 15 minutes to get to the 14th floor. He grabbed his folder of documents and ran. The building was pristine and intimidating, all polished surfaces and expensive art. Archie's work boots squeaked on the floor as he rushed to the elevators, his wet clothes leaving a trail. He made it to the reception desk on the 14th floor at exactly 2 minutes past his scheduled time. The woman behind the desk looked up with practiced professional coolness. "You're late." "I know, I'm so sorry. There was an emergency, and I had to help someone. And the rain. Please have a seat. I'll let them know you've arrived." Archie sank into one of the leather chairs in the waiting area, his heart pounding. His pants were still damp, his shirt collar askew. He tried to straighten himself up, running his fingers through his wet hair. But he knew he looked like exactly what he was. Desperate. Out of his depth. A man who could not even manage to show up on time. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. Other candidates came and went, all perfectly pressed and punctual. Archie kept his folder clutched in his hands, reviewing his prepared answers in his head, trying not to think about Beatrix asking him tonight how it went. Finally, a woman emerged from the inner offices. "Mr. Lewis? They'll see you now." He followed her down a hallway, lined with photos of company achievements, awards and recognition, standards of excellence. He felt smaller with every step. She showed him into a conference room where 2 people waited. One was a woman from Human Resources with a clipboard and a neutral expression. The other was a man in an expensive suit who radiated authority and impatience. Lucas Constance stood with his arms crossed, looking Archie up and down with open disdain. "You're 32 minutes late." "Sir, I apologize. I stopped to help someone in the rain." "And we don't hire people who can't manage their time," Lucas interrupted. "This interview is a courtesy at this point. We've already made our assessment." The Human Resources woman shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Constance, perhaps we could at least review Mr. Lewis's qualifications. His qualification is being late to the most important appointment of his career," Lucas said coldly. "What does that tell you about his priorities?" Archie felt heat rise in his face, a mix of shame and frustration. "I understand how it looks. But I couldn't just drive past someone who needed help." "That's very noble," Lucas said, his tone making it clear he thought it was anything but. "Unfortunately, nobility doesn't keep a facilities department running on schedule. We need reliability, consistency, people who show up when they say they will." "I've shown up for every job I've ever had," Archie said, his voice gaining strength despite his pounding heart. "I've worked 12-hour shifts without complaint. I've fixed things other people said couldn't be fixed. I may not have arrived at exactly 2 o'clock, but I'm here, and I'm good at what I do." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "Are you? The electrical systems in this building are worth millions of dollars. One mistake could shut us down for days, cost us more than you'll make in a decade. Why should I trust someone who can't even show up on time to handle that responsibility?" Before Archie could answer, the door opened. Every person in the room turned. Audrey Constance stood in the doorway, no longer wearing Archie's jacket. Her hair pulled back, dressed in a crisp designer suit that transformed her completely. But her eyes were the same, and they were fixed on her brother with barely contained fury. "Lucas." "A word. I'm conducting an interview." "No," Audrey said quietly. "You're conducting an execution. And it ends now." Archie stared at her, understanding dawning like cold water. The woman he had helped. The crying stranger under the bus stop. She was not just any employee. The resemblance to Lucas was suddenly obvious. The way the Human Resources woman straightened in her seat. The name Constance. "Miss Constance." "I didn't realize," Archie started. Audrey held up a hand, her gaze never leaving her brother. "Mr. Lewis was late because he stopped to help me. I was having a difficult morning, and he showed me extraordinary kindness when he had every reason to think only of himself. He gave me his jacket. He fixed my bag. He made sure I was safe. And because of that, he missed his appointed time. If anyone is responsible for his lateness, it's me." Lucas's jaw tightened. You're being emotional, Audrey. Business decisions can't be based on personal sentiment. Personal sentiment? Audrey's voice rose slightly. He didn't know who I was. He helped me because it was the right thing to do. That's not sentiment. That's character. The kind of character you can't teach and can't fake. The human resources woman spoke up carefully. Miss Constance does have a point. Mr. Lewis's resume shows extensive practical experience, and his references are excellent. I'll review his qualifications myself, Lucas said firmly. But in the interest of fairness, we'll proceed with a practical assessment. If Mr. Lewis is as skilled as he claims, he can demonstrate it. Audrey looked like she wanted to argue further, but she gave Archie a slight nod instead. I think you'll be impressed. The test was set up in a workshop 2 floors down, a simulation designed to assess electrical troubleshooting skills. Archie was given a complex panel with deliberate faults and asked to diagnose and repair them within 30 minutes. He felt the weight of Lucas's skeptical stare as he rolled up his sleeves and began. His hands moved with the confidence of years of practice. He did not have expensive certifications or a degree from a prestigious school, but he had learned his trade from his father, who had learned it from his father, and he knew electrical systems the way some people knew music. He could feel when something was wrong, sense the flow of current like a language written in copper and voltage. 22 minutes later, he stepped back. Done. Lucas moved forward to inspect the work, his expression unchanged. He flipped switches, checked connections, ran diagnostics. Everything was perfect, more than perfect. Archie had not only fixed the intentional faults, but had also optimized the circuit layout in a way that improved efficiency. Adequate, Lucas said, which everyone in the room understood was high praise from him. Then, an alarm began to sound. Not the simulation alarm. A real emergency klaxon, echoing through the building. The lights flickered once, twice, then steadied into emergency mode. A voice crackled over the intercom. We have an electrical fault on floor 9. Technical team to floor 9 immediately. Repeat. Electrical fault on floor 9. Lucas pulled out his phone, his face tight with concern. That's where our main server room is. If those systems go down... He did not finish the sentence. Everyone knew what it meant. Data loss. System crashes. Millions in potential damage. Audrey looked at Archie. You just fixed a complex system in 22 minutes. That was a simulation, Lucas snapped. This is real equipment worth more than his entire house. Then you'd better hope he's as good as I think he is, Audrey said. She turned to Archie. Will you help us? Archie did not hesitate. Where's the problem? They took the service elevator, Lucas making sharp calls on his phone to his technical director. When they reached the 9th floor, smoke was visible under the door to the server room. The technical staff stood outside, looking panicked. The director, a man named Patterson, was pale. It's an electrical fire in the junction box. If it reaches the servers, have you shut off power? Archie asked, his tone shifting into something focused and authoritative. We can't. It's tied into the building's main grid. Shutting it down would black out 12 floors. Show me, Archie said. Lucas grabbed his arm. If you make this worse, then I make it worse, Archie said simply. But if I do nothing, you definitely lose those servers. Your choice. For a long moment, Lucas stared at him. Then he nodded once and stepped back. Archie pulled his own screwdriver from his pocket. The one he always kept in his truck, worn smooth from years of use. He approached the smoking junction box like a surgeon approaching a patient, careful and calm. The room fell silent except for the sound of the emergency alarm and Archie's breathing. He opened the panel, saw the problem immediately. Someone had done a bypass installation, probably to save time during a renovation, and the inadequate wiring had finally overheated. The fire was small but growing, and if it reached the insulation, the whole system would go. I need someone to kill the power to Section 9B on my mark, Archie said. Not before. It needs to be exactly when I say. Patterson moved to the controls. Ready. Archie pulled a wire cutter from his pocket. On 3. 1. 2. 3. Now, the lights went out in that section, Just as Archie cut through the compromised wiring, sparks flew, bright in the sudden darkness. Someone gasped, then silence. Archie worked by feel and the glow of emergency lights, rerouting the system through a secondary pathway, bypassing the damaged section entirely. His fingers moved with absolute certainty. 5 minutes later, he stepped back. Restore power. The lights came back on. The servers hummed steadily. No smoke. No sparks. The system was stable. Archie had not just stopped the fire. He had rebuilt the circuit safely, properly, the way it should have been done in the first place. The technical staff burst into spontaneous applause. Patterson looked at the repair in awe. That was incredible. Lucas said nothing, but something had shifted in his expression. He pulled Patterson aside, speaking in low tones. Archie could not hear the conversation, but he saw Patterson's face change, saw him nod, then shake his head, then pull out his phone. Audrey approached Archie. "You just saved us from a disaster." "Just did what needed doing," Archie said, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline was fading, leaving him aware of how much this day had taken from him. "Come back upstairs," Audrey said. "I think we have things to discuss." But when they returned to the 14th floor, Lucas was waiting with a file in his hands. His expression was cold again, colder than before. He looked at Archie with something that might have been regret if Lucas Constance was capable of such things. "Mr. Lewis, I've reviewed your employment history." Archie felt his stomach sink. Here it came. The thing that had followed him for 6 years. The stain he could never quite wash clean. "You were terminated from Bridgeport Construction in 2019, Lucas continued. "For creating a workplace safety hazard. Is that correct?" "Yes," Archie said quietly. "But there are no buts when it comes to safety," Lucas said. "You were fired for endangering your coworkers. That's in your permanent record. And now I'm supposed to trust you with our facilities?" Audrey moved forward. "Lucas, that was 6 years ago. People deserve second chances. Not when safety is at stake," Lucas said. But there was something in his voice. Something that was not quite conviction. He looked at the file again, and a muscle worked in his jaw. Archie felt the room closing in. He had known this would come up. It always did. 6 years, and he still carried that termination like a brand. Never mind that he had been trying to stop unsafe practices, not cause them. Never mind that he had been right. The official record said he was the problem. And official records were what mattered to men like Lucas Constance. "I understand," Archie said, his voice hollow. "I'll go." He turned toward the door, and Audrey's hand on his arm stopped him. "Wait. Lucas, I want to see that file. It's confidential personnel information. I'm the chief operating officer of this company. Show me the file." Brother and sister stared at each other in a silent battle of wills. Finally, Lucas handed it over. Audrey began to read, her expression growing darker with each line. When she reached the end, she looked up at her brother with something close to horror. "You signed this." "What?" "The termination approval. 6 years ago, when you were regional manager for Bridgeport's parent company, you signed the order to fire Archie Lewis." The room went absolutely silent. Archie stared at Lucas, understanding crashing over him. The man who had just rejected him. The man who was about to deny him this job. He was the same man who had destroyed his career 6 years ago. Archie's heart sank until he heard the voice. "Archie, get in." Enoch. Enoch had come early. The truck screeched to a stop, and Enoch threw open the back door. Archie shoved Bonnie and Alexandra inside, then climbed in after them. "Go!" he shouted. And Enoch floored it. Behind them, the men emerged from the woods, but they were too late. Enoch's truck barreled down the dirt road, and within minutes, they were back on the highway, speeding toward the city. He was flagged as a safety risk, Lucas said. But there was no conviction in it now. The report said. The report was filed by a supervisor who wanted to cover up his own shortcuts, Audrey said, scanning the documents. It says so right here in the investigator's notes. Notes that were apparently ignored. Archie was trying to report dangerous practices, and instead of being heard, he was fired. Archie could not breathe. Could not think. He had spent 6 years believing he had done something wrong. 6 years trying to rebuild a reputation that had been destroyed by nothing more than a signature on a form. A signature from a man who did not even remember him. "I don't want your job," Archie heard himself say. "I don't want anything from you." He walked out. Did not run, though he wanted to. Kept his dignity somehow, even as rage and grief warred in his chest. He made it to the elevator, to the lobby, out into the rain that was still falling. Still washing the streets. Still indifferent to human pain. He was halfway to his truck when he heard footsteps behind him. Running footsteps. He did not turn around, did not want to hear apologies or explanations, or any of the words that people like Lucas Constance used to make themselves feel better about the lives they casually destroyed. "Archie, please." It was not Lucas. It was Audrey, soaked again, her expensive suit darkening with rain. She put herself in front of him, blocking his path to the truck. "Get out of the way," Archie said, and was surprised by how steady his voice sounded. "I can't. Not until you listen." "Listen to what? More excuses? I've heard them all. I was collateral damage. Nothing personal. Just business." "I know the script." "Then let me give you a different one," Audrey said. "You saved me this morning. Not just from the rain, from giving up on the idea that there are still good people in this world. People who help because it's right, not because there's something in it for them. Lot of good it did me. It did me good," Audrey said fiercely. "And I'm not going to let what Lucas did stand. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to clear your record. Get you that job. I don't want charity. It's not charity. It's justice. It's what should have happened 6 years ago." A small voice spoke from beside them. "Daddy? Why is the lady crying again?" They both turned. Beatrix stood there in her bright yellow rain jacket, having climbed out of the truck where Archie had left her. She looked up at Audrey with solemn concern, then pulled out a tissue from her pocket. One of the flowered ones. She handed it to Audrey. "You helped my daddy this morning," Beatrix said. "Now he's sad. But it's okay. Daddy says everyone gets sad sometimes, but it doesn't last forever." Audrey took the tissue with trembling hands. She knelt down to Beatrix's level, rain running down her face, mixing with tears. "You're very wise. What's your name?" "Beatrix. I'm 7. How old are you?" 30. "And I'm very glad to meet you, Beatrix. Are you going to help my daddy? He's really good at fixing things. He can fix anything." Audrey looked up at Archie. "I believe that." Archie felt something in him soften. Not forgive. Not yet. But soften. He helped Audrey to her feet. "You don't have to do this." "I know," Audrey said. "But I want to. Not because of this morning. Because it's right." Over the next 3 days, Audrey worked with a speed and determination that surprised even Lucas. She pulled every file related to Archie's old termination. She tracked down the supervisor who had filed the false report and got a sworn statement admitting to the lies. She compiled evidence of Lucas's rubber stamp approval process that had ruined not just Archie's career but dozens of others. She built a case that could not be denied or dismissed. And then she made Lucas come with her to Archie's house. They arrived on a rainy evening, because of course it was raining. Archie answered the door with Beatrix peeking out from behind his legs, her sketchbook clutched to her chest. He looked at Lucas and felt nothing but tired resignation. "Mr. Lewis," Lucas said, and for once there was no arrogance in his voice. "I owe you an apology. A real one. Not because my sister forced me here, though she did, but because I've spent the last 3 days learning what I did to you. What I did to others. How my carelessness with power cost people their livelihoods and their dignity." Archie said nothing. Just waited. "I was wrong," Lucas continued. "I was wrong to fire you. Wrong to ignore the evidence that you were being framed. Wrong to value efficiency over justice. And wrong again to judge you today for being late when you were showing the kind of character I should have been looking for all along." He held out an envelope. Inside is a formal apology from Constance Industries. a complete expungement of your termination from all records, and a job offer for the position of Director of Facilities Management with a salary that reflects the 6 years we stole from you. Archie took the envelope but did not open it. Why should I believe any of this? Because you shouldn't, Audrey said, stepping forward. You should make us prove it. Take the job on a trial basis. If we don't live up to every promise, walk away. But give us the chance to do right by you. Please. Beatrix tugged on Archie's shirt. Daddy? What does expungement mean? It means they're saying Daddy didn't do anything wrong after all, Archie said quietly. But you didn't. I told them you can fix anything. Archie looked at his daughter, at her absolute faith in him. Then at Audrey, who had chased him through the rain. Then at Lucas, who stood on his porch, looking more human than he had in that conference room. He thought about Beatrix's future, about giving her the stability she deserved, about whether sometimes the brave thing was accepting help, not refusing it. I'll take the trial period, Archie said finally. But I have conditions. Name them, Lucas said immediately. I see anyone on my team get treated the way I was treated. I walk. And I take everyone willing to come with me. I don't care what the efficiency reports say or what the bottom line needs. People matter more. Lucas hesitated only a moment. Agreed. And one more thing, Archie said, looking at Audrey. That charity project Lucas wanted to cancel. Fund it. Audrey smiled, genuine and bright. Done. Archie's first day at Constance Industries felt like walking into a different world. The employees had heard about the electrical fire, about the hero who had saved the servers. They greeted him with respect that had nothing to do with his title and everything to do with what he had proven himself capable of. He set up his office, hung Beatrix's drawings on the walls, and got to work. Audrey would stop by sometimes, always with a reason, needing his input on a facilities upgrade, asking his opinion on a contractor bid. But really, Archie thought, she came because they had shared something in that rainy morning, a moment of human connection that had changed both their paths. 6 weeks after he started, Beatrix appeared in the Constance Industries lobby after school, clutching her sketchbook. The receptionist called up to Archie, but before he could come down, Audrey appeared from the elevator. She knelt down to Beatrix's level. Hi, Beatrix. Waiting for your dad? Yes. But I wanted to ask you something. What's that? Beatrix opened her sketchbook to a drawing she had been working on. It showed 3 people having dinner together. A man, a woman, and a little girl. All of them smiling. Would you come have dinner with us? Daddy said I could ask. He says you like lasagna, and I helped make it. Audrey looked at the drawing, at the little girl's hopeful face, and felt her carefully constructed walls crack just a little further. I would love that. And at 2 in the morning, in a small apartment that had once held only struggle and loneliness, 2 people who had saved each other found their way home. The rain had passed, leaving the city washed clean and gleaming. Audrey fell into step beside Archie, and Beatrix walked between them, holding both their hands. You know, Audrey said softly, if you hadn't stopped that day, if you had just driven past me like you had every reason to do, my life would be very different right now. How so? I was ready to quit. To walk away from the company. From my brother. From trying to make things better. I thought there was no point fighting for people in a world that didn't care about them. And now I think there are still people worth fighting for. People who stop in the rain. People who show their daughters how to be kind. People who prove that character matters more than credentials. They reached the parking lot where Archie's truck sat next to Audrey's expensive sedan. The contrast was absurd. But somehow, standing there together, it did not seem to matter. Thank you, Archie said. For everything you did. For pushing. When you didn't have to. Thank you for helping me when you did have to be somewhere else. For showing me that kindness isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing we can do. Beatrix looked up at both of them. Are you coming in your car or ours? Audrey laughed. I'll follow you. I'm pretty sure I'd never find your house on my own. As Archie drove home with Beatrix singing in the passenger seat, he watched Audrey's headlights in his rearview mirror, following, steady. There. He thought about how close he had come to driving past that bus stop, How easy it would have been to choose his interview over a stranger's tears. How different everything would be now if he had made that choice. But he had stopped. Because that was who he was. And in stopping, in choosing kindness over convenience, he had not just changed his own life, he had changed hers too, had reminded both of them that the world was still full of people worth believing in. The rain would come again. Seattle guaranteed that. But for tonight, the sky was clear. And Archie Lewis was driving home to share dinner with his daughter and the woman who had chased him through the rain. The woman who had seen something in him worth fighting for. And maybe, just maybe, they were both exactly where they were supposed to be. Sometimes, the most important thing you can do is stop. Not for what you might gain,